Views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Supernatural. Magic. Ghosts. UFOs. Bigfoot. Extraterrestrial. Psychic energy.
The Calling.
And well, hello everyone. Good evening and welcome to The Calling. It is ladies' night here, ladies and gentlemen.
That's
Woo!
right. All the
It
people in
is.
the party house. Well, there's geeks to saying, "What's up, party people?"
There we go. So
Awesome.
tonight it is me, Willow Lamachant, with Kimberly Warres, and our guest tonight is, back by popular demand, Wendy Adair, the Modern Exorcist. This is going to be a great show. I can hardly wait. So how you doing, Kim? What's
Doing
up?
good. Totally doing good.
Cool.
Excellent. I'm super excited about the show, so let's get this going. Hi,
Right?
Wendy.
Hey,
How are
Wendy,
you?
How are you?
Good. How are you ladies doing?
We are great. Now that the storm has passed and
I know.
I can see everybody again. I have visual and audio this week. Internet is back up and running. Thank you, AT&T. Because you did not work during the storm or after, for 48 hours after. So, yeah, but I am so happy to have you back. So anything new happening on the exorcism fronts? Any interesting things lately?
Well, I've started working out of a metaphysical shop in my local area and brought in a new group of people. Of course, passing past life regression, so I've been doing a lot of past life regression work. But the most interesting thing that I've had not only past life regression, but an attachment as well. So it made me work for it.
Oh, wow.
So I think in the midst of that you're doing with it.
Okay, you're kind of cutting out, Wendy. So I hear that you're doing past life regressions and there was some spirit attachments. And was this from a client that you had at the new metaphysical shop?
Yes, this was a client at the metaphysical shop. We were in the process of doing past life regression when we realized that an attachment would not let us move forward.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. It was really interesting, and we'll be doing some more work together on that.
Now, was this attachment could have been from the past or something, Wendy? I mean, I know you can't get into full detail or anything, but how do you feel this attachment seems to be?
Yes. Yes, because of confidentiality, I won't go into a lot of detail.
Right.
But yes, she did have it from a past life, one of them.
Oh,
okay.
One.
And those we'll be working with at another date. It was pretty exhausting for the client. We were there for about, I would say, an hour and a half to 2 hours in session, and it was pretty exhausting for the client. So we'll make another appointment and work on it again when that person is ready.
So I have one question real quick. So what's the difference between the modern exorcists or the exorcist that you would get like from a Catholic church or priest or something like? What is the difference between that?
This is non-religious, non-dogmatic, non-denominational. However, it does also include anything that is pertinent to the client. So if the client is of a specific denomination, then beings of, angels or other beings of benefit can be used in the process. But I don't. There are excuse me. There are certain processes that the Catholic Church may use that I do not use.
Okay.
And it really depends on who you're talking to
Right.
as far as how they work that. But I don't believe that all energies that attach are demonic.
Mm-hmm.
I believe
Yeah.
that a lot of them are deceased humans that are truly deceased humans, not demonic entities portraying deceased humans to con the host.
Right.
So that's part of it. And the goal isn't to send everyone back to hell. The goal
Right.
is to help these people go to wherever is the most appropriate spot in progression for them. So some of them will go into what most people would call heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Some may go to a place of contemplation because they're not ready to go to heaven. I get a lot of attachments that are afraid of being judged, and that's why they didn't cross over. So
Okay.
we'll
Yeah.
work with that so that they feel safe crossing over, knowing that they're going to a good space. We'll usually call in some kind of relative or loved one,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that energy is who they say they are, and then we'll help them move on.
Okay. I just
Yeah.
wanted to let people know, like on the chat, so they understand the difference. You know.
Yeah, excellent. That's really excellent because, yes, people do need to know the difference because
Mm-hmm.
the minute you hear the word exorcist or exorcism, the first thing we think about is the movie.
Yeah.
You know?
And you think the white collar right away and everything like that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and I've worked
Yeah.
with a priest and a reverend who's done exorcisms and stuff like that. But I'm more like on your part, Wendy. I try to learn religion and I try to know the difference because I kind of want to accommodate to the people how they feel when it comes to things that way, And I even believe in saging, and I'm a Catholic person. I'm a Catholic. I believe in the
Yeah.
religion in a way. So, so I just wanted to let people understand that part.
Well, do you use any kinds of herbs or anything like that when you do your work, Wendy? Do you use sage or anything like that?
No, I don't. I can't stand the smell of sage burning, although I like the sage. And I will occasionally at my own house use Palo Santo, but my cat's allergic to it, so I don't do it too often. But I don't do it with clients. So I might light a candle for them, but no, I haven't had an issue with energy sticking around, so I don't really feel that I need to use any of that. But if a client asked, I would accommodate that.
Okay.
If it makes me feel safe and respected, I would definitely do that for them.
Yeah, well, I think when people come to see me because I'm in New Orleans, they immediately think of voodoo, It's like that's the first place they jump to. And so they expect some sort of an experience like that. So I do bring in like Florida water, which is one of those things that generally nobody's allergic to. You either love the smell or hate the smell, but it's not going to hurt anybody because it's really kind of like an alcohol-based spray. So I use that mostly, but I do sage my room before I bring a client in, just to make sure there's nothing in there that doesn't need to be in there. If I'm bringing in somebody fresh, it's kind of like putting fresh sheets on the massage table.
Right.
You want it to be clean, right? So, but yeah, I was just curious if you did that because I do know you do some virtual clearings as well, right? The virtual exorcisms?
I can work remotely. I prefer not to. Well, okay. There's two different work. I'll try and do two. So the first one would be working remotely. For me, that means that I'm working with somebody on Skype, Zoom, directly with the client.
Yeah.
If I'm not doing that, so just this, and that is I would be half of a client who is not there. So if I had somebody who was schizophrenic, and I don't work with schizophrenics, but I do believe they also have an attachment, then I might do that work on my own from a distance without letting them know. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, they don't know it hasn't negatively impacted them, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, that does make sense. And yeah, I think that is very important, because I think we talked about this the last time you were on the show, that how very close it can be to from an attachment to schizophrenia, because sometimes it can disguise itself. And so, whoever the exorcist is, or even the mental physician, the psychiatrist is, we need to know the difference. Right. And sometimes it's very difficult. So, yeah, I'm always very cautious, because we have a lot of mental illness here in New Orleans. They closed a couple of mental hospitals back in, I think it was 2012. And when that happened, everybody was just kind of released out onto the street, and nobody was taking their medication because they were homeless. And we were running into a lot. And it was kind of like, we didn't know if people were possessed or people were off their meds. And it was a very hard toss-up. I only could tell by the energies or what I was seeing. Right. Spiritually. So I think some of them were probably being treated for schizophrenia when they had an attachment. But you don't know.
And they could have both. They could have had an attachment and been schizophrenic, because of the altered state of consciousness that they're in constantly, as having schizophrenia will do. Then they are open to, energies passing by, and they look like a nice tasty treat, somewhere to kind of land for a while with an all-you-can-eat buffet of fear and emotional issues.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And I totally agree with you both, because even as paranormal investigators, when we're up here, I always seem to get these clients, because, I always have to make sure if, what type of mental health, or even when you're going on an investigation and you're looking, just check the shelves a little bit to see if they have medication, because some of these people, and then I have a psychologist that helps me know about the difference between the medication that these people are taking, just in case, because, and that's the hard thing about some of these investigators. They don't like to get into things like that, because then it's harder to judge whether these people are really seeing these things, or whether, like you said, Wendy, they can get attached easily, because it's kind of so, and we get that a lot out here, a lot. So yes, I fully agree about that. So just letting you guys know that.
I think it should be required education, frankly, for anybody who's doing any kind of paranormal work or releasement work, anything like that. So whether you're a hypnotherapist, paranormal investigator, medium, or shaman, anything like that, I think that understanding abnormal psychology and schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, there's types of bipolar disorder that can also have hallucinations and delusions. And all of those different things that are so important. And we're going through so much depression and existential crisis right now in our country in the last few years, that it's really bringing just all this stuff to the surface. And we are getting, we as a group of people involved in the paranormal are walking into these environments. Right. And if you don't know what you're looking at, then it could be physically dangerous for you. But it's definitely its toll. If it's not physically dangerous, it's going to take its toll spiritually, as in like attachment or just drain the person.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yep, definitely.
And it's also for our own safety, you know. For like Wendy, you're doing private clients. I do private clients. And we're women, it's not like I'm strong enough to, handle a man who might have a psychotic break, or maybe his attachment comes out and it's really strong. You just never know. And there have been times when my guides are saying, not this one.
Right.
Don't take this client.
Yep.
and I will have to find them somebody else to go to, because if I'm feeling that, then I know I shouldn't take this person. And there's other people that I'm thinking, I think this is fine. And I get in and it's still a really tough case. And yet I might, I tell people it's an hour and a half session, and 3 hours later, we're still working at it,
Right.
and we have that. It happens.
Yeah.
But if they're not worn out and I'm not worn out and we still can do this, then we keep going. Because that's why I'm here. I'm here to help, just like you are, Wendy. It's like we're here to help.
Right.
And this is kind of like our calling. And so we have to do what we have to do. But have you ever felt like you're not supposed to take a client? Have you ever gotten that kind of feeling or that message?
Yes. And I have ignored it, and it turned out to be somebody who, at first blush, was completely mentally healthy and was not.
Yeah.
So I get that it's usually, okay, this isn't an appropriate client for you. Not that it's, this is demonic or this is what gosh is. It's okay, this person's got some issues that are going on that you can't see right now. And I have, I admit it, I have not listened a few times, and I've gotten myself into, some really hard conversations with a client because they don't want to acknowledge that they may have something going on. I had to learn to rephrase my question in my consultation calls. Have you ever been diagnosed with schizophrenia or bipolar disorder? To have you ever had the symptom of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder? And have you talked to a doctor or therapist or psychiatrist about that? Because a lot of people don't go to the doctor for those things. I don't blame them. They're afraid of being labeled. They're afraid of, being thrown in an asylum. All those stereotypes and stigmas are there.
Right.
And so I understand where it's coming from, but I don't want to make things worse for them. So when I have those issues, it's because when I haven't listened to myself, it's because of the mental health issue and I'm not catching it soon enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. And I think that, we're here to do a job, but we still have to have our own safety first.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
and if we don't look at our own safety first and we end up getting hurt by somebody, then how are we going to help more? So, it's like you have to take it one bite at a time, I guess. But, I was just curious if you've ever had that kind of feeling. But, so do you have any other new stuff coming up? You're talking about working in this metaphysical shop. What city are you in? What's going on with that? That sounds like fun.
It is fun. It's called Mystical Celtic Heart in Elk Grove, California. And they are putting on a Festival of Souls on the 30th of October, which will be a lot of fun. They're a relatively new shop. They've been open for just under a year. They're doing really great. The people who own it, Jessica and Richard, are fabulous. Very kind, very fun, very open to new ideas. And it's a metaphysical shop in that the first room that you come into, there crystals, oils, and candles, tarot, the things that you're used to seeing in a good metaphysical shop. The next room is a little more occult-based, and they've got some really cool stuff in there, too. So I really loved the shop when I first went into it. Just the feeling in one of the best feelings I've had in going into a metaphysical shop, that it's very welcoming, very warm.
Yeah, cool.
They create, space for me to see clients, and that's where I'm seeing them now.
Oh, sweet. So are you in there 5 days a week? How many days are you working now doing that?
I'm in there some evenings and most weekends.
Okay.
And it's by the distance. So if you were to go in or call them, they would refer you to me to make the appointment.
Okay, that's cool. So it's kind of by appointment, but you're in there a few nights anyway.
It is.
Got it. So Any other questions you got, Kim?
No, I think that's interesting because I think I'm gonna end up one of these days probably go out there because I go and visit a lot out there. So California is my original hometown. So being a California girl. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. So what's another thing? So is there a lot of clients coming through, Wendy? Are you having is there a lot more now at this point?
Yes. And interestingly, more people are becoming more aware that this is an issue, that this is a possibility, that it's not just something crazy and it's not just something on TV that, normal everyday people have. And they're like, okay, I know I'm probably sane, but I'm worried because I've got this going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, is this a possibility? And I'm like, yes, it is. Come on in.
Right.
So that's good because education has always been important to me, and the education of what hypnosis is, as well as the idea of attachment, has it's been forefront for me because so many people think that all this stuff is just crazy, and it isn't. This happens to everybody. It's happened to me. I've had my own attachments. It's happened to pretty much everyone I know. And the woman who really started this in the Western world, Dr. Edith Fiore, said at first that probably about 75% of that she had ever met with had an attachment at one time. And so, she expanded that to be probably about 75% of people will have an attachment at some point in their life. By the time she ended doing what she was doing before she passed away, she upped that to about 100%.
Oh, wow.
We will all have, energy is all around us all the time, right? So it's not surprising.
Right. And anybody that's working in the paranormal, we're even more open and susceptible because we're going into these places that are so paranormally active.
Exactly.
So, yeah. And I think it's very popular now. There's more and more and more people that are interested in the paranormal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is. You know what? There is quite a few groups out there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's groups. That's established groups who kind of look at what there's a ton of people doing who don't know what they're doing. They're just wandering into public places that they've heard are haunted.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all kinds of people doing.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that a lot more people are enjoying the cemeteries again. I mean, yes, back in the 1800s, we used to go and have our picnics there on the Sundays, right? But now more and more people are really wanting to be in there and checking out the headstones and seeing the energies, and people are doing investigations in the cemeteries. I think that we're just into the wanting to know what's on the other side a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And because people are waking up.
Right.
And honestly, I think that's just going to be it's going to create more and more clients for us, Wendy. Let's just face it.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
So I'm going to read some of these questions. Well, Geeks Paranormal says, I don't know much about Catholicism, but I think I have to research that they have been certified exorcists. Do you have to be certified or take a schooling?
So yes, you're right about that. Did not go.
You're breaking up a little bit, Wendy.
My hypnotherapy training. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's a little better. Try it again.
I did mine through my hypnotherapy training. I was in a transpersonal hypnotherapy training program, which means it's more spiritual based. It's about the whole person, including the soul and those super conscious spiritual topics. And so I did my training with a woman who's a licensed psychotherapist who is also a certified clinical hypnotherapist. Mm-hmm. And she had been doing this for almost 30 years when I knew her. So I trained by her. So I did get a certificate. But it's through that. It's not specifically in exorcism. It just happened that after I left the school and did my additional training and my clinical supervised internship, all these people started for this process. And I thought, okay, well, and I love doing it. I get a sense of joy when an attachment leaves, having left their fear behind and moving forward into something that they feel hopeful about, rather than just taking, from a living host. So I thought, fine, I'll just major in that. I'll just, focus in this. So no, I don't have the Catholic version of that. I have my own version of that.
Right. Yeah, because even I apprenticed under another exorcist, and that's how I learned about it. But I'm using more of my Reiki healing energy and working from that angle to help them leave, basically. So I'm working with, instead of the hypnosis, I'm working more with the healing energy aspect of Reiki. So I like how we're coming from two different angles on that. But yeah.
There's lots of ways to do this. There's a lot of ways to do it. We just have to become versed in doing it and doing it safely.
Right.
Yes.
And I'm a paranormal investigator, and what I do is, most paranormal investigators don't like it, so they try not to do anything in that case. And usually, like Mike, O'Neill, that's from Odyssey Paranormal, he'll even say, I have a friend that will, I'll get them to the right person. I'll talk to priests and whoever I need to talk to help these people, because that's myself, is knowing that you're helping somebody and trying to help them, because I know what it is to feel that demonic, feeling of not even demonic, but just knowing that there's stuff out there is real. I've seen things, and I know it's real. So I try not to discourage people, especially when they feel these things, and I try to help people as much as, especially children, as much as that, so children are really like so I work with, I worked with Michael Reverend Schrader, and I've worked with a couple of other priests that I've worked with, and I'm the one that goes in, views the client, sees what the client, gets all the information for the Reverend, then I go and I take that information and give it to him, and that way it's not always like, oh, he has to come all the way over here, you know what I mean? Try to give him, what I think, what my judgment is, and usually it's very respected, so that's what I do. So yeah, and sometimes I'll be there next to him praying with him. So
That's amazing. I love that a reverend is so open to working with you. I think that's wonderful. I look forward to a day when more clerics are open to things that may be outside of their structure, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And that's the way it should be, because there's a lot of things that I feel that they, just because they're exorcists, and I don't know if you can understand this, Wendy, but got 1 minute. The thing is that I feel like sometimes you have to know the history of the homes or attachments, or their history of that person who's attached, or what is attached to them. And sometimes you need that as an investigator, investigating and bringing out like what they've done in the past, where have they been, what they've done, where they've lived, what types of homes they lived in, what type of places they've been, and sometimes you kind of need that a little bit, to understand your client. So yes. In my case, it would be both clients, because though my living client who's in front of me is the primary concern at that moment, I also consider the entity a client as well. Absolutely. So you have to understand and be able to relate and use that information to help both of them. I agree with you completely. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So we're on the half hour, so we're going to commercial break.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
Those key ladies Sean and Victoria from Exploring the Paranormal with Geeks Paranormal are at it again with another amazing season full of paranormal celebrity interviews with amazing guests and stories of haunted locations and so much more. You will hear it first on Para X. Tune in Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Central. You will not be disappointed.
Oh. UFOs. Bigfoot. Cryptid.
All this is on the recording. Just think if you listen to the words of Para X.
Whether you're listening at home, at work, or anywhere, thanks for making Para X part of your day. Your source for everything paranormal, Para X.
And we're back, and we are talking with Wendy Adair. But before we get back to that, I just have to make sure everybody knows about all the wonderful shows there are here on Para X every day of the week. There's always something to listen to. So if you're bored, just turn on Para X. You'll find something to listen to and join in those chat rooms so that you can interact with whoever the host is on that show. Now, also, I have to tout a little bit about Para Expo 2021.
Yep.
Coming up here in Humboldt, Wisconsin on October 8th and 9th. Now, we are going to be doing a really cool investigation on both Friday and Saturday night, and there's still a few openings for those investigations. But we are sold out on the rooms, but that doesn't mean you can't join in the investigations. So you want to hit Jerry up because he's the one who's booking all that kind of stuff. So, check out Jerry Ayers and check out the Facebook page for Para Expo.
And even during the day, there will be vendors out there. Cat Paranormal will be there. You're going to be there.
Yep.
And so and a couple other people are out there. So come and join us.
Actually. We have so many vendors. I think every day we're getting new vendors signing up. So, and there's still spots for more vendors. So if you want to come and vend, talk to Jerry about that too. But anyway, I should mention that on Tuesday nights, the gathering is here on Para X. Don't forget to stay tuned for Geeks Paranormal after this show ends. So, just a lot of stuff going on, and we just don't want you to miss out on anything. So, getting back to exorcism and the Modern Exorcist. So tell me, what would you suggest if somebody is having issues in their life? Now, I've had people come to me and they're telling me, I feel like I got a hex on me, and I think this and that. I know that after talking with somebody, I'm picking up that it's probably not a hex, but it's probably an attachment of some kind after I've interviewed them for a while. But what would you suggest to the audience, Wendy, if they're feeling like things are off, maybe they feel like they've been hexed? What would you suggest?
Well, hexes do happen, but they're not as common as people seem to think they are. And I think because we're so used to, especially in our society, looking outward for a cause versus looking inward. So if you look at the group you're surrounded by, if you're not in deep with magical people, you're probably not being hexed. Now, if you've got a lot of magical people around you who are practicing different forms of magic, then that's a little more likely because they have that information and that know-how. And there's, bad apples in every group who like to do that kind of thing.
Right.
Let's say, yeah. So if you think about that and you're like, no, I don't think that's it. I don't know anybody who's probably going to be hexing me, but you still feel like there's something wrong. I know it. You can do a scan.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're comfortable with meditation, you can go into a meditative state and scan your body. Just visualize your body one side and then up the other. If you feel anything or see anything in your mind's eye that seems out of place, that's, maybe dark, looks deformed, if there's something that looks like a foreign object, something that's missing that should be there, then chances are you've got an attachment, or you've got an implantation, a psychical implantation, or you have maybe soul parts are gone. Maybe you need soul retrieval instead of releasement. You can also check your energy system, otherwise known as your aura. If you see anything that just doesn't feel right, all those other things that I mentioned a moment ago, you can look for those. And then talk to somebody who does that, a shaman, hypnotherapist, a medium, somebody who's involved with that type of environment. You can talk to them about that. And if they don't do it, then they usually will know somebody they can refer you to.
Right.
Or you can call me.
Yep. Yeah. And I've honestly had to refer some people to you lately, Wendy, to be honest with you, because I've been in the midst of a hurricane. And there wasn't a whole lot I could do. No power for 10 days. And I knew some people might really need your help, and I couldn't help them. So I think that's something else that we do in our field is like, if we feel like maybe this person matches up better with this professional rather than ourselves, we'll do referrals. It's like, I think this person would be better suited to help you with what I feel after talking to you is the issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I get around here, and I guess it's probably because I live in the deep South, everybody believes they've got a hex. Everybody believes somebody's hexed me. I know they've hexed me. What? Your gator, haul didn't come in as well this year. Somebody got into your crab traps. I mean, come on, what's going on, right? But, then there are those people where when you're listening to them, it's like, that's not a hex. You're just sitting there going, no, I'm already feeling it. I'm already seeing it in my mind's eye. So it's like, yeah, there's something else going on here. And a lot of times it's difficult for me to explain to people that not everything is a hex.
Right.
Because that's the first thing everybody here in the South jumps to. It's got to be a hex. Somebody put the hoodoo on me. That's
right.
Everything. And people they contact me because they think I can break a curse. Well, it's not what I do. That's not my specialty. So but it's difficult. So if people could just understand, if you do that scan and you look at yourself, you're going to realize that maybe it's not a hex. Maybe it's not a curse.
Right.
Right.
And that would be really good for people. So I'm glad you explained that. I think that might help some of our listeners. So
here's a question, Wendy. Yeah. This is from Sherry, and it says, what about implants from aliens? Do you believe in that?
I have had experience with that with a client, yes.
Okay. And how do you know the difference?
Because it's through the hypnotic process, I'm asking questions. It's an interactive process.
Okay.
So I'm getting either the information being spoken through the client, or it's being relayed to the client and the client will relay the information to me.
Okay.
So that's where the information is coming from. And then the process would be a standard exorcism process that you would do with a deceased person or a demonic entity. Just this one would be extraterrestrial.
So what about an actual physical implant?
That
How
I
would
would
you? Okay, but could
I
you
would do
see
I
that?
think that's physical. That's physical, and I
Right.
wouldn't do anything like that. I would have to refer them. Uh, honestly, I don't know who I would refer them to. I'd have to look for someone because our medical establishment is so anti anything
Right.
outside of what they do.
Right.
So
Right.
I would
That
have
would be
to help
hard.
the client look for someone who could take care of that for them. But I would not be the appropriate person to do a
Right.
physical. But
So
you
I
can
was
do surgical implants, and that I can do.
right. Right. Have
Okay.
you ever come across any actual physical implants in
No,
anyone? You
not
haven't.
physical
Okay.
implants, no.
Okay.
But I have had clients who've had attachments that were extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
that is something that I do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I honestly, I wouldn't know who to refer anybody to. I remember there was one doctor that was doing it, but I think he's actually passed away. So I wouldn't even know who to actually refer anybody to anymore for something like that. But yeah, and it is interesting because I think Sherry, I'm not sure if Sherry wants to clarify if she was talking about physical implants or just psychic implants. But I do totally believe in the psychic implants. I think that is totally something that they can do.
Hmm.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, I mean,
So,
so
yeah.
what, I mean, other than that, I mean, so you said that there are more clients and more, is it because you think this whole COVID thing is breaking out and it may have caused like a stir in that sense? Because I feel it has, a lot of it has.
Yeah, I probably because it's a pandemic where so many hundreds of thousands of people have died, and even more hundreds of thousands of people have come close to death. So I think there's a huge existential crisis going on globally right now, but specifically in our country, since that's what we can speak to. And
Right.
so I think it makes people want to explore spirituality and what that means to them. And once they start opening that door for themselves, then
Oh,
they
that's
realize,
true.
wait a minute, something else may be going on here
Right.
that I'd never really given credence to before,
Right.
or
Yeah.
acknowledged, I've hidden from myself, things like
And
that.
and what about like people who have passed? Let's think about that. I mean, all of a sudden they get COVID, and then some people pass within 24 hours. Others takes forever. They're in the hospital, they're being hospitalized, and before you know it, people are around you, or there's nobody around you. I had a series of people. I work at a Catholic church, and series of people coming in saying, "Oh my God, how did this happen?" Panicking, they don't understand it. They don't, I feel like even spirits will attach to those people, or the last where they've been. And it's much harder for them to understand,
Right.
how they passed on. And so they get this attachment in a sort, in a way, do you see that a lot?
Not yet,
Okay.
but I suspect I will. And something you said triggered a thought for me too, is I suspect that we'll be seeing a lot of deceased humans who have quote unquote unfinished business because they were
Right.
shoved in a room on a ventilator, could not have that closure with the understanding they were dying. They were alone because
Right.
people were not allowed to go in, their family. So I do suspect that we'll probably see more of that.
And
I
that's
hope
what
not, but
yeah, that's what I saw when I'm working there, and I became like this psychologist for people because they were coming in and just literally crying and upset about this whole thing, that their person passing. And it's just the
right.
saddest thing. It was the saddest
Yeah.
thing to go through, even for me, because I felt that emotion with these people, I even think sometimes I even needed a healing afterwards, go see a shaman or something, because you're taking that all in.
Right.
You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? So,
Yes, definitely. That's a great
Yeah.
idea.
yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been having a lot more clients when I've been doing more public, like the walk-up clients in Jackson
Yeah.
Square. I've been having a lot more of that where people have recently lost loved ones to COVID over the last, 18 months or so. And it's just, I pick up and I empath both the living and the dead. So I'm
Right.
picking up on their last moments a lot of times. And it's like, oh, my chest. Oh, my chest. I'm like,
Right.
and I come home feeling like I need to clear myself because I've now just empathed all these people's lung
Right.
issues.
Right.
Right.
And yeah, I go to lay down at night. Nope. I got to clear myself first because it's hard to breathe when I lay down now.
Yeah.
So yeah, but there's so many that did not get the closure.
Mhm.
Now, when they come to me, it's kind of good because they speak through me to their loved one. And that way that loved one is getting the closure and the deceased person is getting the closure because there was things they needed to say they didn't get to say. That does help. But there's so many of them.
There is. There really is.
So many. It's so sad that like I've started bringing 2 boxes of Kleenex with me to the square every night that I'm out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
And
just-
I just feel that we should touch bases on something like that because, I'm sure, Wendy, you probably will be seeing stuff like that in that sense. And it was just so hard for people. And I can imagine what spirits must feel,
Right.
without that. So, yeah. So,
I also am concerned about the guilt. People who've chosen not to become vaccinated, and then they have their spouse or they die and leave their family behind. And because we're hearing about it in the news where there are people who are, very, very sick saying, I regret not getting it. So there's that additional emotional layer that will have to be peeled back.
mm-hmm.
And anger and resentment of how people feel. I mean, when they go through the grief process, the anger and the resentment, depression, all of those things are going to come up. I also worry about living people becoming attached to these attachments because they're their loved ones, and not wanting to let them go because they lost them so quickly.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true. I can imagine.
It's going to make a mess.
It is, yes. I have had clients who've attached to their attachments. So that's a thing too, where the living become attached to the dead.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've met some that just aren't ready to let go. It's like, no, that's been with them for decades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
They don't want to let go. It's become who they are in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had clients that have had demonic energies that have passed through their family line. So before they were born, it was already there.
Yeah.
And, they're 30, 50 years, then it's who. So yeah, it creates a whole level of having to help someone.
You were cutting out there a little bit, Wendy.
Okay.
What was the first part of what you were saying? Because you were really cutting out, and I think you had some important stuff to say.
I have no idea. No, I was talking about the lineage, the demonic energies, other energies that come down through a family line, and people don't know who they are if you remove that, because they've been there since before they were born into their 30s or 40s or 50s, and suddenly it's, well, who am I if I'm not this?
Okay.
And that opens up a whole new level of having to help someone and knowing when you're not qualified to help them and you need to get them to go to somebody who is qualified.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you basically think that, I mean, no disrespect, so you think that some may have had attachments before they were even born? Does that come through like family lines of people?
It can.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
It can.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have one instance that I know that a grandfather passed it on to a 4-year-old child.
Okay. Because
That
I kind of
the
see
life
that.
force of the grandfather was running out, so he passed that entity onto the child who's only 4, And so that attachment, and this man is now closer to 50, and he's had that attachment since he was 4 years old.
Okay. Okay. Can you, so you can get rid of attachments, Wendy, even though they've been there for that long?
Oh, yeah.
Can you? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
the important part is to make sure that you backfill that space that the attachment leaves behind.
okay.
Because when someone leaves you or you have a breakup or something like that, it leaves a hole. And even though you know that you're better off without that thing there, it's still, wait a minute, there's a hole to be filled. So psychologically, we're like, no,
Yeah.
this hole needs to be filled. So you make sure you backfill that with something beneficial and healthy for them.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
But I believe that. I truly believe that even when you're born with some type of attachments because of past families or just because, past lives. I mean, if you
Right.
believe in that, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
of a past life and where you're coming from, and you still have to, you're still going through the process, and I kind of believe that in a sense. So, yeah.
Well,
So, anyway.
even like family karma, it's almost like a lot of times I feel like there's energies that are passed on. And it's kind of like if the mother was going through something horrendous when she was pregnant with a child, that energy is now passed on to the child. And they're born
Right.
with that, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I've seen that kind of stuff too. And it gets very complicated in trying to help each individual. But I think if we could take a look at each person as the individual to figure out exactly what kind of situation they're having, whether it's an attachment, whether it's, an entity that's been passed down generation to generation, or if it's something new that they've picked up. I think it's very important that we really can take a close look at that and analyze that whole situation so that we
Right.
know how to treat each client.
Absolutely. Yes. And they can hop within families or within groups.
Yep,
So,
I believe that.
yeah, you can have, let's say you have a family of 7, or perhaps even extended family beyond the family in a household. And depending on what's going on in the dynamic in that family, you can have an attachment just hop from person to person.
Mhm.
It's like going to a Vegas buffet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
perfect example. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe it. I truly believe it. That's just like abilities. When you have abilities, and you know that your grandma must have had something, and then your mother, she's believing everything you're seeing or believing what your thoughts are, or it skips a generation as well. So yeah. So I mean, I truly believe that, though. I feel that in the past life maybe there was always those attachments, and they keep coming from the different generations, so yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're following your soul.
Definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
Or your families.
Right.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give the listeners? We have a few minutes left here. Any other advice you would like to share with us when it comes to past lives and what we might be holding on with that, or soul retrieval, if you've got any information that you'd like to share about that? I think our listeners would really like to hear that as well.
Sure. So with the one thing that occurred to me when you were saying that with past lives is don't make oaths that you can't keep or don't want to keep. Okay. Don't, in the moment of passion, say, I will hate you for the rest of eternity. Mm-hmm. I'm going to haunt you for the rest of eternity. You'll never get rid of me. If I can't have you, no one can. Those types of things. Because that's going to lead to either you attaching to someone or something else attaching to you. Yep. So think very, very deeply before you make those kinds of very long-term commitments.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So with that, with past life regressions, though, they can overlap, but they aren't usually the same thing. So I don't have a huge number of people who come to me for past life regression who also have an attachment. At least it's not coming up in that particular session. So with past life regressions, go into the session with an open mind. If you find somebody's going to do this for you, think of why you would like to do it and let that practitioner know so that they can facilitate that more easily for you. And there are several reasons why past life regression therapy may be appropriate. It may be that you have a pain that you can't explain, doctors can't explain, that may be associated with a past life trauma. It may be ancestral, where the experiences of your ancestors are traveling up that family line and you're experiencing some of that. It may be that it's your subconscious making something up to make sense of something. So there are a lot of reasons why it works. Keep an open mind. As far as soul retrieval, a lot of times we have a trauma, big or small, and we lose a piece of ourselves, we fracture, we splinter, and those parts can be retrievable, and that's what soul retrieval is. So if somebody says something that hurts you deeply, it may fracture you a little bit, and you may feel, you may go on from that point feeling less confident than you ever have, or less worthy of love, or any variety of things. And a soul retrieval may be able to go out, get that piece, and put it back and heal that wound. So I think more people could use that.
Yes.
And it's not talked about much. It's a shamanic technique. I am not a shaman. It's a shamanic technique that I was taught in my training. And I really think that people could talk about that more, because I think all of us could probably use more soul retrieval.
I agree. Yeah, totally. I know I could probably use a good session. I know.
Me
all
too.
the things I've gone through in my life, I'm probably lost bits and pieces of me all over the place. So I totally agree with you on that. So where can people find you, Wendy? How can they reach you to set up an appointment with you?
The best way to reach me is through my website. That's modernexorcist.com. And there's an information bar on the side where they can put in their information, and it will message me. They can also email me at wendy@modernexorcist.com. And I also have a sister site called intotheunder.world. You can go there and message me there if you're interested in Greek mythology and the ancient Greek underworld. So, and I do hypnosis with that page too. So you can catch me on either site.
Awesome. Nice. Very awesome. Yeah, I may be hitting you up for a session soon.
Okay.
And then your
personal,
where can they reach you to do a personal reading, like when you work in the shop, you said, the metaphysical shop? Where is that at?
That's in Elk Grove, California. The name of the shop is Mystical Celtic Heart, Elk Grove, California. They're
Awesome. So I just want to remind everybody about Para Expo 2021 coming up October 8th and 9th, Humbird, Wisconsin. Join us at the event in the community hall on Saturday, starting at 11, I think it is, 10 or 11. Go until 5. Lots of cool things, lots of vendors. And also our investigation 2 nights, Friday night, Saturday night. I'm going to be there doing readings, so you can, get a reading with me. I'm going to have some things for sale. I know Cat Paranormal is going to be there too. Lots of stuff going on. So
thank you, Sarge.
Thanks, Sarge. Thanks, the troops.
Yep.
And thank you, Para X. And have a great night, everyone.